Hi, it's Chris Grimm and it's Deep Work Fast, where every week on Tuesday at this time for 20 minutes or less, I bring you ideas, concepts, and tools. Sometimes I can talk, sometimes I can't. Anyway, my goal is to help you be your best at home or at work as a boss, parent, partner, coworker, employee, whoever you are, whatever relationships you have, whatever you're trying to achieve. I want you to be really, really great at it. And since I've been doing this, coaching people for 28 years, I've been trying to find platforms and places where I can, get these tools and ideas out to as many people as possible, not just do it one person at a time, even though I love that and I still do that. So let's get started. This week, I dropped a blog yesterday, and if you have not seen it, Heather, Mission Control, will put it in the chat. The title this week is Why Am I Doing All of This? And the subline there is around our frenetic activity and unnecessary obligations that tend to take us off our path and away from our purpose. Sometimes that's our personal purpose. Sometimes it's the purpose of our work, the core, the mission, the why. We often get overscheduled and overworked and lose sight of what we're doing. So I want to bring us back and I want to teach you a few things. I'm first going to talk to you about some things that I talk with people in coaching about. And because I've been coaching people for a long time, sometimes I have the privilege of coaching a person in multiple jobs in their career. And because it's been 28 years, there are some people that I have coached in numerous jobs. And then at the end of their career, as they have decided to retire, whatever that means for them. For some people, it's leaving their jobs and being on a board. For some people who were working in their home, and I've been coaching them for other reasons, it's just deciding what to do when the kids are gone or when whatever they were doing has shifted and changed. So I want to talk a little bit about the phases that people go through in life. Now, this shifts a little bit by generation, it seems, but in general, there are four main phases. And if you are interested, I will later put in the chat some links for you. There are people who have some really great materials on the development of adults, both men and women. One is Allison Armstrong. She's got great resources. I love her audio books, but she has regular books too, of course. All about how people develop. It's amazing how we're all very different, but we're all the same. It's helped me as a coach understand the patterns or the playbook, if you will, around people. And so something for you, and if you're interested, and if you have kids, by the way, this might really help you start to understand what happens after they hopefully launch out of your home and into their own lives. But I just want you to think about yourself for a moment, because my goal here is in pursuit of making you great. You have to be aware first. And when I say awareness, it's just really being aware and clear about what is true for you. And then creating the space for yourself to be introspective about that and understand not necessarily what's good or bad. I tend to coach people to move away from good or bad thinking and move into thinking and asking yourself the question, like, is this working for me? Am I getting the outcomes I want? And that's one of the reasons I'm doing this topic, because I find a lot of people get so stuck in the grind, the hamster wheel of daily life, that often they lose sight of whatever their big picture or their big why is, and then end up regretting that and feeling like they missed opportunities to do things because life goes by. So let's talk about the phases of life for a moment. You might, like I said, want to write that down, and later I'll put some resources for you. So there are four main phases, right? So we have usually after we get out of school, if we go to school, or somewhere in our 20s, whether you went to school or not, it doesn't matter. And I want everybody to understand, I'm talking to everyone here. So whether you work in your home as a homemaker, a stay-at-home mom or dad, or just someone who is creative and doesn't go work in a job, the phases of life seem to be the same. They just look and feel a little different for you at the time. So in our 20s tend to be that kind of exploratory process where we're trying to figure out who we are and what we want to do. And then we start to, once we get some traction, right, we start to build whatever that means. It might be moving out on your own. It might be, like I said, graduating from college and deciding to get a master's degree. It might be getting your first job and really loving that and deciding I'm going to stick at this and I'm going to continue to learn, right? So you're exploring, and then you start, once you find something, to build. Then you have that building and the establishment of your life phase. So sometimes that crosses over right into your late 20s, your 30s, and you're building your life, right? You might have relationships, you might have children, you might not, you might have dogs, you might stay in the same job, or you might job hop a bit. But all the while you're starting to build, right? It's continuing to build your identity. It's also usually building a way that you're going to have a living. So you're either going to earn that living by working, or maybe you're going to continue to go to school and become a professor later, whatever, right? So you go through that first phase and then that second phase. And then after you've built and established yourself in your life for a while, most likely your life has what I call infrastructure. It has a cost structure to it, specifically if you decide to have a family, or if you don't, and you are a traveler, or you take on whatever it is in your identity that you've established as you. And so the third phase is usually one of some kind of mastery, right? So you're in a groove, you're doing what you're doing. So for people in the career world, see, I told you sometimes I can't talk. In corporate, in small business, etc., when you're in the mastery phase, right, you are building your network, you're leveraging that network, you have a reputation. Hopefully it's good. You're continually proving to yourself that this is what you are professional at. That's why we're called professionals when we're a grown-up and we're in our career. And like I said, even if you're a person who does not work outside of the home, your identification might be, I know people who are professional moms. They have 3, 4 kids. They spend their good part of their life ensuring those people are going to become good people who launch into the world and can hopefully be productive. So whatever you do, you most likely have that time of your life. Now, I want to note that in the building and establishment phase and in that kind of mastery phase of our life, we tend to take on a lot, right? So we are deeply overscheduled. And in the Western world, and there may be some of you watching today and you say, I don't live in the Western world. Well, culturally, you might be doing something different, and that'll be great. I would love to hear about it. But I know in the world I live in Los Angeles. I interact with a lot of people in major cities and places in the United States who are often overscheduled and very, very, what I call over and unnecessarily obligated to do a lot of things, right? So you're spending your time, your energy, and your money, and it all just seems to go by very, very quickly. And like I said, that last phase of our life tends to be kind of a wind down. Now, in many, many generations before ours, as you know, some people decided to end work abruptly and they would retire, and life would significantly change. Like they'd go to Florida or something and go live on a beach. And some people still do that, right? They they work until a finish line. That's becoming less common. And so what I'm seeing now is that people are planning never to retire. In fact, they're starting new careers or they're going into a new phase of their career where instead of that full on work, over schedule, over obligating, they're going, wait a minute, my network is still fertile. I want to be on boards. I want to travel with my grandchildren. I want to take on volunteer work. I'm not done. I'm not just going to go sit somewhere and do nothing. So, why am I sharing all this with you? Well, it is important for you to do this in a purposeful way. And I find if we don't pause the overschedule, over busy, overly obligated parts of our life, sometimes we will end up not knowing what to do as things start to wind down. Now, some of you might say, oh, my career's never going to wind down. I'm in my 50s and it's going strong. And that's great. So is mine. But that doesn't mean sometimes I don't go, wait, why am I doing this again? Because when you're not building and you're not climbing a ladder or you're not planning the same way you do in your 20s, your 30s, and your 40s, you get to a certain point. And by the way, there may be some of you who earlier, God love you, you may say, I don't want to work all the way until I'm 50 or 60. I'm going to retire earlier. I'm going to shift my career earlier. And it is fascinating to see some of the data that we have on the generations coming, at least behind me, my kids' generations, and maybe some of you who are thinking about your careers very, very differently than we all thought about them. And I love it, by the way. I love to see the variety of it. I like to see what it's doing to the workplace because we're having to rethink a whole bunch of things because people aren't working in the same way that they did. They don't want the same life for 15 or 20 years in the same place with the same people doing the same thing. Awesome. Just do it on purpose, right? That's really my core message here is that all of it will mean nothing unless it's purpose driven. And I have had people look me in the eye and tell me, well, the purpose is I'm doing all this, I'm killing myself every day to make money because I've built an infrastructure for my family that has a whole bunch of obligation, expectation, and entitlement to it to keep the lifestyle that we have, which is pretty good. So my purpose is the money. And my answer to you is your purpose can't just be money. Because money is really just the fuel. Like it's like the gas you put in the tank to run the whole thing. If you start to make money the only purpose, you will sooner or later be disappointed because something will happen that you might not meet the target goal, make as much as you were make, get laid off, get fired, get divorced. I don't know. But that money, when it becomes the thing, will suck away your purpose driven the energy you get from that because it doesn't give us the same energy. So part of my blog is helping you when you're ready, and in a few minutes we'll talk about when and why you'll know you're ready, but what to do when you need to anchor back to your purpose. Because I do want you to understand, first of all, there's no shame in this. I don't want anybody to feel bad if you meet any of this criteria when I say this to you. Some people know their purpose and are highly passionate about something deeply early in their career, and they just pull that through their whole career. And that's amazing. But that is a very, very small group of people. I know I coach a lot of people, so I get to experience this with everybody all the time. Instead, I find people who maybe they think they know their purpose, their personal purpose. And then as they mature, as they have experiences, that changes and they go, oh, I used to think I loved healthcare. I used to think I wanted to be the person who was going to change healthcare. And now I've been in healthcare for 10 years and it doesn't feel that great. I'm not that satisfied, but I thought that was my purpose. What should I do? And I say, well, maybe you've grown out of it. Maybe it wasn't the only thing. Maybe we need to find a purpose that's sitting under that, that's much bigger, that might not be about an industry or a job. It might be something a lot bigger than that. I don't know. Some people never anchor to a purpose. Like maybe they don't care. And like I was saying to you, maybe they're just so highly motivated by money that they never stop to ask those why questions until things go sideways. And then I find those are the times that people kind of go, wait a minute, I'm in crises. Why am I doing all of this? And if you don't know your why, if you don't have some deep passion about things that are bigger than you and bigger than a job and bigger than money, then you might want to read like Simon Sinek. I think it's always begin with why. That's really great, by the way, not just about your personal purpose, but knowing the purpose of your business and your team and why are we doing everything that we're doing, right? Why are we going to push through these challenges and problems? Why? Why are we here? The last category are the people who I believe tend to resist this kind of work. And you may be that too. You may be one of those people who eye roll at me when I talk about purpose driven action. I'm an eye roller too, so it's okay with me. I'm not offended. But I would say to you, you will benefit and feel better, more fulfilled, and feel like it's a better use of your time, energy, and money when you are anchored to the thing that feels like it will satisfy you in a very deep, meaningful way. And to find that, you're probably going to have to do some exploration. And in fact, even people who I know who are very purpose driven and have been for a long time, I always say, stop sometimes and just re-gut check around it. Like, are you still deeply connected to this thing? Thank you for those articles, Heather, in the chat. I would die without mission control. Anyway, the last thing I want to say to you, and I do urge you to grab the blog. The blog this week that I'm referring to is longer than usual. So it's going to take you probably 6 minutes instead of 3. But what I put in there is a lot of questions for you to ask yourself, and then an exercise for you to start to anchor back to or anchor to your purpose, right? That big why, so that you can start thinking about and exploring how you're spending your time, energy, and money, and ensuring that if you are having the every day feels like Groundhog Day, that means like you're living the same day over and over and over again. Your work and your life are starting to feel like the hamster wheel, which is a little like Groundhog Day, but tends to feel more frenetic and chaotic and like, I'm just doing this all the time. Or you lay in bed at night, literally kind of like this all feels empty and I'm just not getting any juice from all this stuff that I used to love doing, or maybe you never loved doing. Doesn't matter. If you're feeling that disconnect, if you're feeling that emptiness, the answer is let's find your purpose. And I want to leave you with a thought about this because some people, you know who you are, often look at me and they go, it's too fluffy. It's not practical. I need a job because I have created an infrastructure, Chris, and I do have a family who needs things from me. And I have to put kids through college and we'd have these big vacations all the time, blah, blah, blah. I understand. I know. I live the life. You can spend the same time, energy, and money doing something purpose driven that you are spending now doing whatever it is that you're doing that feels empty or done or over or annoying, whatever. But you have to make the choice. And you have to be planful because I am not a proponent of recklessness. So I'm not saying quit your job and your life and leave it all behind. That's not what I'm saying. I am saying let's be purpose driven. There are a lot of resources in the chat. I'd love for you to grab one, grab the blog, read through it. If you have questions, you know where to find me. We do a ton of work around this. I would love to help you because I want more people excited and feeling connected to purpose, and less people getting on Zoom with me or meeting me in their office and looking at me going, why am I doing this? Let's answer that question. Connect it to your why. Okay, I'm at my time. So see you next week. Bye, everybody.